I've got something just to kick this off. This is a recording, Tom Brown, Brown Sugar. The track is Throwdown. You might remember this one. Okay, let me just sort of like play a bit of the groove just so the guys can hear what I'm talking about. Oh yeah.
Wait. Go to the trumpet solo. This is my man, Tom Brown. You're right there. Tom Brown.
I looked at the date and I was like, you were 19.
Okay.
And you still sound like Mark, like you're still...
Well, you can hear that there's no, that's a passive bass.
Yeah, well,
but
what I was going to ask you about is, like, was that, you know, like when people think about, you know, you back in the day, it was definitely the jazz bass with the Sadowski preamp and like all of that. Was that recorded on that, or was that
it's the same bass, but no preamp or anything. That's just plugging into the direct box. I got my first Fender in '75, right? Before that, I had a Univox bass. That was my first bass, and it looked like B.B. King's guitar.
Is that like one of the
You know what I mean? Like it looked like a 335.
Yeah.
So I had that, and I was just happy to have any bass. You know what I mean? Because I begged my mom and dad for one. Got a jazz bass, Sunburst in '75, probably in '77, early '77. I was loading my car, and put the amp in the trunk. I said, "There's one more thing. I must be tripping." And I got in the car and drove off and left the bass against the other side of the car.
Yeah.
And that one disappeared. Mom took me to 48th Street in New York. That's where you got your instruments from. It was just one street, you know, one block where all the music stores were.
All the music stores were there, right?
And so she got me another one, man. Left that one in the car about 6 months later and got that one stolen in New York City, right? And so I figured, well, that's the end of my bass playing career, you know? And Mom, she didn't tell my dad about the next one. You know, she took me again and got me one. That's 1977. That's the one that I have. I held on to that sucker.
So maybe it was actually sort of like, you know, maybe it worked out.
I figured it was meant to be, you know what I mean? But that was the bass that I used, man, for everything.
Hey, listen, we're going to be going back to the main video in just a few seconds, but quickly, I wanted to let you know that we have got a special SPL giveaway club that you are going to want to be a part of, because it's 100% free to join. Each and every month, we give away audio interfaces, strings, bass heads, pedals, cables, multi-effects, straps. We even give away basses. And to join the giveaway club for free, all you need to do is go to splgiveaway.com or just click the link in the description. Now, with that said, good luck in this month's giveaway, and let's get back to the main video.
I would go do a funk gig over here, and then the next night I'm playing with a jazz trio, you know what I mean? With a guy who played with Charlie Parker, you know what I mean? And then we do fusion gigs with the Brecker Brothers, where we combine all of it, you know, so it was very, and then I was playing in African bands, Latin bands, reggae bands, you know, Caribbean bands, you know what I mean? It's New York City, so I got a very wide start, and nobody ever demanded that you make a choice, you know? If you come from another place, if you come from New Orleans, or you come from the Bay Area, you come from Minneapolis, you know, there's one sound, you know what I mean? New York, there was not one sound in New York.
It was a mixing pot.
So I'm a product of that environment, you know? And it's crazy now because I started playing the bass at 13. But
is that when you started playing, when you were 13?
Yeah, I was playing clarinet. You know, my dad's a piano player, so I grew up piano and the organ, and he played primarily in church and for weddings, and, you know, like a great local musician, working musician did. Yeah. So I was always goofing around on the piano, you know what I mean? But New York City school system offered trumpet, clarinet, or drums. And of course, everyone wanted to play the drums, but my father said, not in this apartment, you know? And I'd already, like, you know, at 8 years old, they offered us this little wooden thing called a recorder. You know what I mean? So my dad said, well, you already played the recorder.
That's what I played, recorder,
He said, you already played the recorder. Why don't you just stay with the wind instrument and play the clarinet? And I already love music, so I figured I'm not into the clarinet that much, but it's music. So I got into it, and that's the instrument that I stayed with all the way through college, you know, in school. But, you know, I heard the Jackson 5, you know, and I got deep into soul music. Clarinet wasn't really appropriate for that style, you know, moved over to saxophone for a while. But man, I heard that bass, man. A friend of mine got a bass for Christmas who lived in the same building as I did. His name was Brian Harris, and Brian and I were best friends. And I'm sure Brian's mom got sick of me being over there because I was just playing his bass, man. I heard that sound, and it was the sound that was at the center of music at that time, you know. If you listen to an old Motown record or Stax record, Isaac Hayes, or any of those records, the drums are just, sounds like a drum set, like this.
Yeah.
It's just another instrument, you know. It wasn't like the bass drum like you hear today, like in EDM. It was just, it's just a knock, you know. And the real soul of the track, the bottom of the track, was the bass guitar, you know. And so I was like, man, this is right in the center, man. I would love to do this. And like I said, I already been a fan of the music. Convinced my mom to get me that Univox bass that looked like B.B. King's guitar, you know, and I was on my way. So that's how I got into it, you know. And so I had 2 parallel paths. I played the clarinet classical. I auditioned for high school with Mozart's clarinet concerto.
Really? Were you doing that like full classical? Yeah.
Afro, platform shoes, bell bottoms, and the clarinet. That was me. And but in the streets, I'm playing the bass. You know what I mean? And so when I became 17, 18, producers in New York were looking for bass players who could read but didn't sound like they were reading, you know?
And you'd obviously got, because you come from a reading background, because of the clarinet.
Right, but I'm also from the hood, you know what I mean? I'm playing like, okay, yeah, I got it. I'm not going to play that. You know, I'm going to play something else that works. I understand what you know, the feeling of what you want, you know? And so that was really valuable back then. Will Lee could read. Anthony Jackson reads incredibly, you know, Neil Jason, Francisco Centeno. Most of the New York bass players who were working, they worked because they played a street instrument, but they could read music, and that was really valuable. Was
that an incredibly important thing for you to begin with in your career, reading?
It just made things easier. You know what I mean? Studio time was expensive. Nobody had time to wait for you to figure it out. You know what I mean? No one had time to show you stuff. Certainly no one was sending you a track a week earlier, you know, so you could practice your little licks that you're going to play in. No, man, we got to go. The arranger just wrote this thing out 15 minutes ago, you know?
You've got to be
Let's
on
go.
it, yeah.
So you come in, man, they say, hey, man, we need to be done with this gentleman in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? We hit it. One more, make a couple of adjustments, do it again. Thank you, gentlemen. And you go to your next one that you have in an hour. You know what I mean? And that became the studio life. I started that around 17, 18 years old, and did it for maybe 20 years, you know?